Hello, everyone. Happy March, and by extension, happy Women's History Month. I am back for another month of books for Black Girl Magic Book Chat Women's History Month edition. If you're new here, my name is Larissa, and I am the African American Resource Center Coordinator for the Tulsa City County Library. And in the past few years, for March, Women's History Month, I have been reading books by and about Black women in honor of Women's History Month. So I think this month I've got a great batch of stories for you all. I'm excited to read them, and so that means I'm excited to share them with you. And I hope that you choose a few to read for yourselves. So let's jump right in. This one might be a little bit long because it was a great book. I'm gonna already say it. So bear with me. So my first book is Purple Hibiscus by the light kind of looks weird. Here we go. Purple Hibiscus by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. I hope I pronounced her name correctly. I was practicing. So it's actually my first time reading a book by her, although I've obviously heard of her before. I used to be an English teacher, and when I was teaching, once when we did a unit on perspectives or something like that, perspectives, point of view, etc. And I remember using her TED talk, The Danger of a Single Story, to help teach that lesson. So I knew that she was great then, but I cannot tell you why I've never picked up a book by her. And it's crazy that I haven't, because Miss Adichie is a storyteller, okay? So this story is set in the 80s, I'm almost sure. It's in Nigeria, and it's just a few years after Nigeria's Civil War. And they're in the midst of sort of maybe a military coup, or just they're in this space of unrest, So this book follows a girl named Kambili Achike and her brother Jaja, her father Eugene, and her mother Beatrice. And there's also a larger cast of characters, including aunts, her aunt Efioma, her cousins, her paternal grandmother, folks who work for her father, all sorts of folks. So there's a cast, but Kambili is sort of that main character, and we see all of the things that happen in this book through her perspective. So she's 15, and she presents as a little shy, a little unsure, quiet. So her father is extremely wealthy. He's a factory owner as well as a publisher for a local newspaper called The Standard. He's also a devout Catholic, the type that has sort of eschewed all tradition, all of the Nigerian Igbo traditions, so much so that he doesn't even allow his father, who he consistently calls a heathen in this book, that he doesn't even allow his father into his home. So Kambili is close to her brother, Jaja. She loves her mother, and she longs to make her father proud. To those outside of this house, they're the perfect family. They're wealthy, they're generous, they give back to charities, and the people in the communities, in the villages that are nearby. They are Christian, and in this space, that is a good thing. Her father speaks out against corruption. His children always have top marks in school. Their English is impeccable. Eugene even speaks it with a little bit of a British accent. And Eugene, who Kambili calls Papa, doesn't even take additional wives. And so they just view this family as incredible, like they are the standard. But inside the house, however, there is definitely a different story. So Eugene believes that Western culture is a lot superior to Nigerian culture, and he is a strict authoritarian and has incredibly rigid rules and high standards for his wife and his children. When they don't meet these standards that he set for them, and when he feels like they have sinned, because those standards are also rooted in Christianity and Catholicism. When he feels that they are broken and that they have sinned, he physically harms them. So much so that each of the family members has been in the hospital at one point or another because of the beatings that he's carried out. Enough that even the wife has miscarried before. And so, one day, Jaja defies his father. And so, this is when we really see the chips fall. Is that the metaphor? This defiance starts a bit of an avalanche. After So at the beginning, we see this act of defiance, and then they take us back to kind of show us how life used to be. And then they bring us back. And so at one point, they go to visit their auntie, Ifeoma, and their cousins who live a different life than they do. Ifeoma is a professor at the University of Nigeria. They are poorer, but they're happier. They laugh and they smile in the house in a way that Kambili and her family does not. That's something that even the people that go to school with her acknowledge, that she doesn't laugh. Her cousins are allowed to have opinions that are not the same as their mothers, unlike Kambili, Jaja, and Beatrice. And they get to question the world around them, including Christianity, which would absolutely result in some sort of harm coming from Eugene. When Kambili's life is turned around, seemingly because of Jaja's defiance, but more so because it's almost sort of the natural progression of things. When her life is turned around, so is Nigeria's. So that is happening in the background of Kambili's life. Her personal life is upended, and so is Nigeria's. The country is being sort of upended. Like I said, they are in the midst of the effects of a corrupt government. And the University of Nigeria actually gets shut down in this book due to a number of things, including student protests because of horrible treatment. And in the process of those changes, and especially more interactions with her aunt and her cousins, we see Kambili and Jaja kind of grow into their own people and start to make decisions. And we have to acknowledge that that's something that their dad doesn't like. And we see the effects of Kambili and Jaja becoming more quote unquote worldly, and how that affects their home life. Y'all, this book is excellent, I think. Chimamanda is a storyteller. She has taken some very difficult topics and turned them into something that's relatable and still honest. Even when I wasn't reading it, I was wondering what's going to happen next. It took me so much not to go to the back of the book and find out what was happening. And the reason I didn't is because I wanted to read it happen, right? Like I have read some books that the plot is good, but the writing is not my favorite. And so sometimes I just go to the back so I know what happens because I don't really care about spoilers. But because of the way that she writes, I just wanted to read it. We see very hard themes to swallow in this book, such as control, domestic violence. We see the disintegration of culture, especially due to colonialism. We see political unrest and how all of those things can result in harm. And not even just the political unrest and the colonialism, but like also how strict adherence to religious practices can sometimes be harmful. And so we see that in this book. Like I said, Kambili and her family are wealthy, but in materials more so than anything else. No one is happy. Nobody laughs. In fact, many people view Kambili especially because, she's a girl and God forbid she's not the shining star in the room. They view her as arrogant or disinterested because of the way she presents, when the reality is that she's just afraid to live, it feels like. And mostly because she knows that things that would potentially bring her joy could be viewed as negative or a sin and have dire consequences. She and her family members have no room for mistakes. And a lot of that has to do with the way that her father has interpreted this religion, this Catholicism that the British have brought to Nigeria, and the so called responsibilities of one with this much wealth and power. And now, a little aside, I do think that when you do have that much money, there does come, I think there does come some responsibility, I think, to, I don't know if share your wealth is the right word, but do good, right? Like if you can, because I think we should all be doing good with whatever that looks like. And if you have monetary resources, that's a way that good can be done. And that's one of the things that really makes you think and feel, because he does. The father does do good with his money. He goes into, whenever he goes to his hometown, he's handing out money to the people who need it. He's buying food for the people who need it. But at home, there's no room for grace for his family, because to him, they, as the recipients or as the owners of this wealth, must present in a very specific way. And when you're not allowed to maneuver within that, when you're not allowed to still hold yourself to a standard while also being real and being human and being allowed to falter, that's no way to live. And so we really see how Kimberly has to navigate that, because at the end of the day, he's still her father. She still loves him. She still wants to make him proud, even if it doesn't always feel good to be loved by him. And then in this book, we also get some bits and pieces of history interwoven. That social unrest in Nigeria, I think, is just ripe for further reading. That's not something that they told us about in schools. And so, like, I know vaguely about what happened after Nigeria gained independence, but not this. And even some of the stuff that happens in this book is based on real life actions of the people who had been there and been living and been corrupting during that time. Purple Hibiscus was not a long book, but it was certainly a powerful one. It's not necessarily short either, but it's not, I didn't feel like I was hoping for the end to hurry up. And if I was, it was just because I was like, oh my God, how are they going to be at the end? What's going to happen? And the ending is, I don't think it's going to be what you think it is. Because I remember closing it. I read it on my iPad because I have the ebook on the Libby app. I remember just kind of swiping away the app, and I was just like, how you sit in a book after the end? I was sitting in it after the end. So it was a great start to my month. So I'm hoping that all of the other books are just as powerful. Fingers crossed, y'all. Next week, I am reading a book called Dances by Nicole Duffy, another first novel, because if I didn't mention previously, this book, Purple Hibiscus, is Chimamanda Adichie's first novel. She's written several, including Americana, that everybody knows, and I'm going to read that too. Not for this month, but I will. But this book, Dances by Nicole Duffy, is another first novel. Somehow I end up picking those, even though I don't mean to. But I've already started it, and it's about a ballet dancer, a Black ballet dancer, and we know how difficult that is for African American women, Black women. So I'm excited to kind of continue on and see what happens in this book. So I'll be back next week. And until then, thanks for watching Black Girl Magic Book Chat, Women's History Month edition.